Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the power of hypotheticals and how I think some cultures and some societies, and just in general, some people suffer because they never operate under hypotheticals. Now, first of all, let's define what is a hypothetical or what is a simulation. So a hypothetical would be an option, right? And the more you have, the better, because that means you have options, you have alternatives. You can go in many different roads, or down many different roads, or in many different ways. You can approach a problem from different perspectives, right? And this allows you mental flexibility as well as better problem solving skills, right? Um, so I'm reading the book, The Mystery of the Capital by Hernando de Soto. And in it, he talks about how formal property representation is important. So he kind of goes from, he's talking about capitalism and how capitalism works in first world countries because there is a system of representation for the physical properties that people may have, like buildings, houses, land, right? So this allows for people to basically be able to see the potential for business, like by mixing and matching, combining different structures or different properties, right? Whereas in developing countries, there isn't that system. So everything is like, and there isn't that trust. So everything is like, let me see the piece of property you're talking to me about. And maybe it's everything is operating out of the margin of the law, right? So yeah, how formal representation of property allows you to simulate hypotheticals of physical property, right? Now, this idea translated into psychological notions or maybe like mental notions, you could basically say the same thing applies when you have a problem. Excuse me. When you have a problem and you need to do a sort of mental simulation on hypotheticals, um, which again are non-existent in third world countries, right? Now this is bad because basically you don't use your imagination, right? And if you don't use your imagination, you can't change, you can't transform yourself, right? You need options, you need to be open, you need to look at things from different perspectives, right? They need to come at you from different perspectives in order for you to basically transform and change yourself, but not only change yourself, but change the physical world, right? Like, how are you going to maybe build a hotel off this property, off this land, if you can't imagine it first, right? And it kind of goes back to that saying that like everything is mental, which to a certain extent it is, but it's not like you can, it's like, how does the physical world get changed? I don't think the physical world is changed by accident, right? I don't think people just, construction workers, architects just start working and they're like, let's see how this city ends up turning out, right? They don't do that. They obviously need to think first, right? The people that hire them need to think, right? They need to imagine that city, that bridge, that building, that new business, right? And maybe, but that's not to say that you will achieve it exactly as you visualize it or as you imagine it in your life. Obviously, a lot of factors are going to come into play. But what I'm saying is that you can't just start doing things out of the blue, right? And you need to imagine them first. So that there is that hypothetical representation, right, which you need to do first. Otherwise, you continue to suffer through hardships, right? So you need to ask yourself, what are the many ways this could go? What other alternatives or options are there? And this is thinking like a military strategist, right? Where if you're in a war, you need to consider what the other enemy, right? What the enemy could do, the different ways in which you could approach this, right? So you need to ask yourself this, and you could ask, how is this achieved? Well, I have a simple answer, which is mix and match, add and subtract, right? So there are many ways in which you can maybe add things from different areas, or you can take away things that you already currently have on there. Now, what I have been doing, for instance, with ChatGPT has been, ChatGPT has this version in it where you can record. Uh, Basically, you can have a conversation, right? Like as if you're talking to ChatGPT. And this is what I have been doing with ChatGPT. And I ask ChatGPT, can you simulate, for example, I want to get better at negotiating in general. Can you simulate a negotiation with me where just give me a situation, like just this past weekend, we simulated, I was the boss and I had to convince ChatGPT, which was my employee, to take a different shift, right? Like the morning shift, where when he was really in the afternoon shift or something like that. So and I tell ChatGPT like make it challenging, right? So it's like imagining these different scenarios, simulating them, right? Working with the hypotheticals, right? Like what if, right? If I do this, this happens. And I think the more you do that, the more prepared you'll be to face different types of situations, because let's face it, life is unpredictable. It has many different scenarios, right? And the more prepared you are for them, the better equipped you are to actually come out on top winning, right? Um, so yeah, representations help us deal with humans, because ultimately, even though we very much live in a physical world, it is still humans who we have to deal with. Now, this is for all of the empiricists out there, or the people that are like very evidence data oriented. I work with machines, with facts, with things that are tangible, real world. I don't care about all of that psycho mumbo jumbo. I will still tell you, yes, you may live in a physical world, but you're not dealing with physical things. You're not dealing with the machines. You're not dealing with the bridges, with the buildings, with the properties. You're dealing with humans, right? So that representation, which I was talking about earlier, helps us interact, right? Mitigate the relationships, mitigate the bad things, maybe in interactions with other humans, because that's the point. At the end of the day, we're dealing with humans. We're not dealing with machines, and it is the humans which we have to convince, persuade, get on our side, kind of like do all these things to better and improve our lives. So yeah, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about the power of hypotheticals. How, if you have a lot of this if scenarios in your head, it could lead to expanding your knowledge, right? And also practicing just these type of scenarios in different situations. It's like mental exercise, right? Like you go to the gym, you work out to improve, to strengthen your body. So you do the same thing for your mind, right? So yeah, let me know what you think about this topic. That's all I got for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.